Why is this not working? Oh. Hello everyone and welcome back to my game development series. Last week I made a rather long technical video and according to my poll you seem to enjoy it, so I guess I'll be making more of them in the future. This week I added a boat to my game and of course the first thing I had to do was to model the boat itself. Do keep in mind that as with all my 3D models the colors are not final and will definitely change. With the boat model finished and exported to Unity, it is time to answer the question of today, which is how do we make the boat float? The short answer is that we don't, because simulating buoyancy and whatever physical forces we've got in the real world would just straight out burn our CPU. Well, maybe not, but the frame rate will drop a lot. So how do we solve that? Well, we cheat a little bit. It's what we do in video games. In fact, video games are just one big cheat because the game world doesn't even exist. So the first step to make this boat move is to add a rigid body in Unity. This gives the boat some basic physical properties and will make sure that it won't move through walls and other objects. If we then want to make the boat move, we can apply a force in its forward direction when we press a key on our keyboard. Now there's just one problem, and that is that by default the boat will never stop moving. According to Newton's first law of motion, that is exactly what should happen. However, it is not what I want to happen. Why is that? Well, by default a rigid body doesn't take air resistance into account. That's a dream of every physicist, because removing air resistance from your equations makes them so much easier to solve. However, it's not what I want, because in my case, my boat will never stop moving. So to fix that, we will increase the drag, which is just a fancy name for air resistance. And by doing so, the boat will stop after a certain period of time when we let go of the key. Perfect, so now that the boat can move forwards and backwards, we also want it to be able to rotate. And we do that by applying some torque. Torque is basically the rotational equivalent of applying a linear force. And once again you can see the same problem arise, which is that the boat will never stop rotating because we also gotta give it some angular drag, which is air resistance rotational wise. The higher we make that parameter, the quicker the boat will stop moving when we let go of the key. At this point our boat can move. It works great in this empty level, but kind of falls apart when we place it into our bigger level. The problem that I'm talking about is that when the boat collides with a wall, it'll just stop. And that's not what I want to happen. The boat is made out of rubber, so I would expect it to kind of bounce off the wall a bit. To do that in Unity, we create a physics material for the boat and we increase its bounciness. And now, when we hit a wall, it'll just perfectly bounce off, which is exactly what I want. There's one last physical property that we'll have to take into account, and that is friction. Right now, when the boat moves against a wall, he'll not really be able to do so because the friction is too high. So we've got to bring the friction down a bit such that the boat can actually move whilst colliding with a wall. And that's it, that's all the movement for the boat completely done. There's one last thing we can do, however. I always love when games have these little details, and one of the details I wanted to add was to make the motor of the boat actually move when you turn it. So as you can see, the motor and the handle to control that motor moves when you move the boat or rotate the boat. Right now it just seems as if it's magically moving, but once I add characters on the boat, I can use inverse kinematics to make the hand of one of my characters grab the handle, and then it will look as if he's actually moving it. If you're interested in the code I use to make this boat move, you'll find a link to it in the description. If you've got any questions or just want to have a chat, then feel free to join us on Discord. Next week the fancy visualizations will return because there is going to be quite some math involved. If you don't want to miss that video, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.